Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lighthouse Sessions. I'm excited. I have my old friend Elizabeth Henson with us, and she's not old. We've just been friends for a while. Elizabeth, why don't you introduce yourself and tell the world a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for having me, Jeff. I love our conversations. I feel like we always have such good synergy and understand each other. And it's such a delight to be here. So, my name is Elizabeth. I'm essentially a business coach with a specialty in community building and leadership. So, I take my students and community members through 4 phases of building a business. But the backbone and the most important piece is that self development and leadership part because I say this to be funny, but if your personality sucks, you're not going to run a good business.
That,
True.
yeah, that sounds like a bland membership community. So,
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be real with people sometimes. If you're not getting the sales, you might have a you problem.
well, for what it's worth, Elizabeth, I get told there's a lot of me.
Yeah. Yes.
And,
Yes. Some of us
and
do bring that energy. We know how to fill a room. It's okay.
yeah, yeah. And, it's funny because anybody who says you're a lot, I'm like, you don't belong in my room. And they get offended. And it's like, no, no, no. I promise you, I don't get less annoying. If I
Yeah.
annoy you up front, this is all you're going to get. I
Yeah.
promise.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like all personalities are beautiful, the ones that are a lot, the ones that are a little, and everything in between. But what I'm finding is, the more work I do in this space and the more I ascend on my self-development journey, I can be very confronting for people, right? People who aren't doing the work. It can be a little bit confronting for them to be face to face with it in a good way. But sometimes people are like, no, thank you.
I love it. Now, let's talk about how you became a guardian of communities. You're literally a gardener. You build these communities. How did that come about? What were you doing before? I think, we've talked about you being a teacher and in corporate, but
Mm-hmm.
how did the seed come to fruition?
Yeah. So this really, I feel like is a quest to figure out my life's purpose that I didn't really know I was on. But I quit corporate and being a teacher to be a full-time photographer. And then I started teaching other photographers how to start their business. And what I learned very quickly was that I didn't like teaching them how to use their camera. I was like, why am I going to teach them something that they can learn on YouTube? What I really loved was like that moment where you could see that they realized that it was true, that they could actually do what they love and make a living doing it. So I kind of went on this journey of how do I become this show people what's possible person? Why was building a photography business so easy for me? And it all boiled down to building a community as I was building the business and sharing my journey. I mean, no one really cares if we're good at something. They want to see us become good at it. That's why you see authors talking about books before they're even launched, because you're building community, you're casting that vision and sharing that journey along the way. So once I realized that there was something in that moment for me, I just sort of learned, how do I become the best business coach that I can be so that I can work with not just photographers, but all types of business owners that make way more money than I do. I mean, I really just wanted to become the best of the best when it comes to showing people what's possible and teaching them how to build and lead their own communities that become marketing machines, really. I mean, better than anyone else, when you can build a community, you don't really have to market because they kind of do it for you.
I love the raving fans, and it fascinates me when people look at products like Apple and Harley Davidson are probably the two that I resonate the most with because of their impact. I mean, I don't know of another brand where people willingly tattoo the brand on themselves. Like, I don't know if Apple people do that, but I do know Harley people do that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not so much you're selling a product or even a brand anymore. You're selling that identity, that lifestyle.
Yeah, you're selling a feeling, right? You're selling a feeling that people know that something is bigger than them or possible or easy or fun or something that makes them feel seen and important and part of something.
I love that. So let's talk about community. And by the way, one of my favorite things is asking a visionary entrepreneur, what do you do? Because there's always the path that got them here is the fun part. So you've been doing community development sort of work, and I'll let you use your phrasing, but that's what my brain remembers, for as long as I've known you. So what advice would you have for somebody watching this who wants to do marketing? And you and I are going to go, no, stop. Have you considered?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, marketing is community. Great community is marketing. They're one and the same. And like you said, with companies like Apple and Harley Davidson, they're creating an environment where people feel something. They feel like they are a part of something bigger than themselves. And when we can set up our business and our processes and our marketing and our language in that way that casts that vision and calls people in so that they feel part of something bigger, I mean, that's what it's all about, right? And I can sit here and say, yeah, build a community, I'll do the marketing for you, but you can't come at it with that intention. One of my favorite things to help people with is, if you can't help 10 people, if you're not selling in a room of 10, you're not going to be able to sell in a room of 100 or 1,000. We have to master helping one person at a time before that community will grow. So the first step I would have someone take is take your ideal client, and if you can help them reach their 90-day goal, then that's going to be more rewarding and get you more referrals and more community and more customers than anything else. If you can get laser focused on helping one person hit their 90-day goal, and then that's going to attract more. And now you can help 10 people hit their 90 goal, and so forth and so forth. Or however you help people. I mean, that's just one thing, one way.
I love it, because everything I do, I use 100 days, but same concept.
Yeah.
I like the symmetry of 10 sprints of 10, but it is fascinating because what you brought up there, a couple of things I want to unpack for our audience, because I'm disturbed by how many people can't tell me who is your ideal client. And I cringe when somebody says, I serve everybody. The worst I ever heard was somebody sells skincare products, and they said anyone with skin. And I'm like, do I really look like a skincare product kind of client?
Right.
I have skin, I promise, but I don't do routines, right?
Yeah.
So I think what I'd like to unpack there is, how do you define an ideal client? How do you know you've got it right?
Yeah, that's such a good question. For me, it's when they really resonate with my mission and the work that I'm doing. I am not chasing leads and chasing clients. I am simply putting my word out in the world. I have a podcast. We're getting close to 200 episodes. I'm on socials. I really show up every day, and I'm building my own stage, for lack of a better way to put it, right? And the people that resonate with what I'm saying and they step forward and say, I want more, are obviously my ideal clients, right? And I'm like, okay, well, what is it about them that is different than the rest of the world? And it's almost like am reverse engineering this avatar, this idea of an ideal client and who they are and why they resonate with me. And most of the time they're women, most of the time they're business owners, and they want to grow or scale or make more money or have better marketing. But at the end of the day, it's all driven by this desire for a bigger purpose and to make the world better. I mean, I have real estate agents that have worked with me, not because they want to sell more houses, but because they want to solve the affordable housing crisis, right? So they're all kind of really in this, I want to be a better leader. I want to make the world a better place. Those are my people. The people that are like, oh, I just want to, join an MLM and make a lot of money and use, like you said, a franchise, use someone else's processes. Those are typically not my people. Sure, I can help them with business. Sure. But they're not going to be the ones that want to work with me in the long haul and really buy into, finding their dharma and their soul purpose on the planet.
And I think that's a huge distinction because, there are certain businesses and MLMs, I think, are in that category where it's by design very transactional. Now, for the record, with the right person, you could build a community around an MLM. I have
Totally.
a couple of really amazing humans I know that have built massive communities, but their mission is not to sell the product.
Mhm.
It's, they came at it, and, the ones I know that are most successful, they had some sort of physical ailment. They found some random product that cured it. And then they were like, oh my God, I'm going to build this community of people who have this problem, and we're going to work together to heal it.
Yes, 100%. That's the bigger mission. That's such a great point, because, the people, I used to be really into like the essential oils, still love them. I love living clean, but the ones that are successful are the ones that show up because this is a way to live clean, not buy my product. It's really great. It smells good, right?
Yeah.
It's really that bigger mission of let's make the planet cleaner, better, stronger for our kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, it's funny because on the flip side, I actually knew somebody who was very public, and I'm a health coach and I'm here to help you be well. And then the minute you got near her in private, okay, how much stuff do you want to buy? And it was like, whoa, you went from credible, and surprise, surprise, her community never took off because everybody took off. They were running.
Yeah. I mean, people recognize the bait and switch. They know them when they're being sold to. They know when that's your motive. And, you have to really embody this desire to help people at a 10 out of 10. And that level of detachment of like, I don't care if they buy from me or never buy from me, right? Like, I've never jumped on the call with you, Jeff, in hopes, oh, well, maybe he's going to turn into a client. Maybe he's going to buy something from me. No, that's never been the intention. It's like, let me see this person and see how I can support them and connect with them and make the world better, because we're both building communities. And you feel that energy at 10 out of 10. And that's why these relationships work and they spread like wildfire, because people can feel the difference. They know that energetic signature, that frequency, they know it's there. So it's our job as leaders to really make sure that we embody our mission, our purpose, and show up in that way. And the money will follow. And I know that sounds crazy and people think I'm crazy, but it does. It absolutely does.
Yeah. Now, it's funny. I'm going to share with you. I won't name names because I don't like doing that. But I went to this one coach. I really, really respected him. I liked all his material. And I signed up for one of his events down in Florida. And I went there, and, the funnel was amazing. And one of the things, the upsells after you buy your ticket was, $500 VIP lunch with this coach. And I was like, oh, that is so cool. I'd love to have some quiet time with him. So I bought it. And I'm not kidding. As luck would have it, it was a room. There was about 100 of us that paid for this private lunch. He came down, and the only free table seat was at my table right next to me. I said hi to him, and he said, I'm exhausted. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me. I'm not here. I'm just here to eat. And I was like, wow. And then as I watched, I watched him with a very different eye for the rest of the weekend. And then, it was all nice, and I'm teaching you this and I'm teaching you that. And then Saturday night, the night event was why you're a moron if you don't buy my $100,000 coaching program. And then Sunday morning was meet with the finance people so you can see if you get in. And all day Sunday was a shame fest for those of us who didn't buy his big program. And the people who bought, they were all feted, and, it was basically, he trotted them through the room as conquering heroes. But then afterwards, he had the gall to say, oh, join my community. I value you. And then he bragged about how he made $4 million over the weekend, and, all these losers that didn't sign up. And I was like, I'm so confused. Am I a loser or somebody you're proud of and you want to know?
Right.
And I left his world after that. It was like unsubscribe, unfollow, unfriend.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, they're out there, and a lot of these tools, NLP and sleight of mouth and really good copywriting skills, you get some of these tools in the hands of the wrong people, and it can be really manipulative and really dangerous. And that's one of the things I love so much about my coach is, yes, he taught us a lot of that, but he has always been so adamant of using these tools for good, making the world better. being inclusive with all types of people. Every single human being has infinite potential. And the second we show up any other way in his community, he's like, absolutely not. And, again, it's like he's the leader and he gets to trickle down into the community what those core values are. And, it sounds like this person was probably attracting people with similar core values. And unfortunately, that's going to be the ripple effect. But, we can only control our ripple effect. And what a good learning lesson to be like, this is what I don't want.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about where I am today as a community leader, as a coach, I see myself as the mayor, the marshal, the sheriff. Everything I do is because somebody showed me what I don't want.
Yes.
It was like, touching an electric fence. Ooh, nope, I'm good. I'm going to go this way.
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually just helping someone before this call. And she's like, I've been in this program for a year and nothing's working and I'm getting frustrated. And, I said, okay, well, you've gotten no results. Like, let's clarify what no results are. And she's like, well, I figured out some things that aren't working. And I'm like, well, scientists literally get rewarded for figuring out things that aren't working. So when we can operate our business from this place of neutrality and a lesson is just as valuable as a result, then we're literally waking up every morning and everything is a win. I mean, I invested like $10,000 in creating a product, really creative tangent. We talked about those before the call. It happens to the best of us. Okay.
Squirrel.
I can look at it and I can say, well, that didn't go as planned. And I could really beat myself up and sit in a shame circle. But I'm like, I learned so much about how I want to proceed with this project, what I want it to look like, what I do want, what I don't want. And that's valuable. That's $10,000 in learning lessons. And that's just as good as turning that into a profit.
Well, and I love the story of Thomas Edison. Famously, he said, found out 10,000 ways to not invent the light bulb.
Yes.
And that's, for what it's worth, I cringe when people use, I failed. And it's like, I always got experience. I mean, yes, there are times you fall flat on your face, you're bleeding. I'm going to acknowledge that is not the desired outcome. But, if I get back up, number one, I succeeded because I got back up. But number two, if I learned a lesson and I can course correct, yay, that's exciting.
Yeah. My coach always says literally the only way to fail is to just not go after it.
Yeah.
To just not do anything at all. That's the only way to fail. As long as you're doing something, you're not failing. You're learning.
Well, and early on in my life, one of my mentors gave me a quote from Wayne Gretzky, and his quote is, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take."
Exactly, yeah.
And it's like, I'd rather take a shot and miss than have the best puck handling in the world and never take a shot.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not that exciting to be great. When I was helping photographers, I'm like, if you hide in a closet or you hide in your home and you get really good at this skill, and you wait until you're perfect. And then all of a sudden you're like, hello world, I'm ready for you to hire me.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be there and nobody cares because there's so many great photographers out there. They want to see, like I was sharing everything. Like, oh my God, I got a blurry background for the first time. Look at this new lens. Look at what this lens does. And I didn't even know I was getting all this right at the time because people were following along, whether they wanted to see me flop or whether they wanted to see me succeed or whether they just wanted me to practice on them. It didn't matter because it was all working in my favor. And then when I really was actually getting good and ready to charge real money, it was like everyone was ready and my books were filled. It was just pretty amazing.
I love that. Now, let's talk about what you do, sort of how somebody comes to work with you, why they're going to come to work with you, and how's their life better for it.
Yeah. So right now, my signature program is called Elevate. It's a group coaching program. It's also hybrid where people work with me one-on-one, but the basis of it is 4 phases of marketing and all built around this community-based marketing, like my very specific community-based core values, leadership skills, all the things. So we work on their branding first and foremost, because your brand is what's going to attract your community. And then we work on marketing, which really the way I distill marketing is understanding your numbers. So your business is going to look like the stock market, where some things are working, some things are not, some things are working. And that's just like, how do we measure? Let's set up all your measuring systems. And then the third stage is sales, which is like, now that we can measure, we can identify what is working. And we're going to figure out how to do that on repeat. And then one of my favorites, the fourth stage, is leadership and visibility. So now that you've got a machine that's working in your favor, let's get you on more podcasts, on bigger stages, etc. Because a lot of times people start their business and they're like, if I can just get in front of more people, my business will succeed. And they go on a podcast tour and they're like not seeing any sales. And I'm like, well, because you went out of order. You want to have a working sales machine before you get on a podcast.
Yep.
Not that that's wrong or bad. All of our stories have value in itself, but how much better is it to be able to get on a podcast or on a stage and actually like see some benefit or some sales from it?
Yeah.
You know?
And knowing that you will see some benefit. And
Exactly. So that's really how I help them. I take them kind of through those 4 very tangible stages. But what we spend our time on, Jeff, is the self-development. Oh, this isn't working. Oh, I'm frustrated. And it's the business coaching in those moments of just redirecting and keeping them in action. I mean, you know how it is. People will be like, I'm so behind. And I'm like, are you doing stuff? They're like, yes, but I'm just behind. I'm like, then you're not behind. Like, you are in action. That is the best thing that I can do as your coach, is to keep you in action.
Now, if you're behind because you haven't done anything, then that's another conversation.
Exactly. 2 different conversations. But that's what my program is, as far as how people, get it or find me. It's usually speaking opportunities, things like this, referrals. It is so crazy, Jeff. I built an online business and I feel like 80% of the people in my program are local to my area, just because I got 1 or 2 local people, and then it spread like wildfire, and I'm hosting local events, and I'm becoming a little bit more known in Hampton Roads, Virginia, but everything we do is essentially online. So, whether it's Instagram or, but I don't go chasing. I'm here to help people, whether they pay me or not. And eventually they're like, I heard you're the best business coach. I want to work with you.
I love that. And I would second that, because I think what people are seeing, you are authentically you. And that's, whenever I've reached out and said, hey, I'm doing this, you're like, how can I help you?
Yeah.
And
I think, me the link. I'm there.
And I love that, because I think when you build a community of people like that, and, Joey Vitale is another one, he brought you and I together. I think it's fair to say, I am a fan of the Go-Giver. I know Joey is, and I assume you are. Mm-hmm. When you bring people together for the sake of bringing people together, everybody wins. And there's no tangible score to it. It's just, I'm better for it, you're better for it. And, every time you and I connect, it's like, hi, Joey, we're remembering him in the background. So,
yeah. Oh my gosh. I have a really cool story. So anybody who's kind of wondering a great way to start building community, I highly recommend in-person events. So once a month, I host a free get together. It used to be paid, 5 or 6 years ago. I used to have a paid community, and now I actually do them for free. It's called Hampton Roads Creative Network. So what's really funny is all kind of business owners will come to these, and we go all in for 2 hours. I love it. There's nothing I'd rather do on a Friday. But every now and then there'll be someone who's sitting in the circle, and everybody kind of gets a hot seat, and they'll say, well, I can't do anything for free. Why would I offer my services for free? And I'm like, you showed up here today at this free event, right? And I'm like, and you're getting value out of it, right? And so they're like, yeah. And I'm like, there's this thing called reciprocity. And, I said, I am here donating my time, but it's because it's my true passion, my true purpose. It is my love language to sit here and speak with all of you about business. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. And it feels like a gift to me. And when you love your work that much, that doing your work and serving people is a gift to you, I'm the selfish one. I'm, not you guys for showing up, like me, because I'm like, I want to live in my purpose and I want to do this thing. And I just you just totally flip it on their head. because they've been taught, because so many business coaches out there, like, don't do anything for free, value yourself, know your worth. And I'm like, I already have infinite value. I don't need a price tag for me to believe that I'm of infinite value.
Yeah.
And it's just so fascinating to me, human behavior, and people having to unlearn a lot of that your true purpose is a feeling. And when you can live into that, money just flows so much easier, because everyone leaves that room and they're like, oh my gosh, like, I want to work with her because she doesn't care about money. Take my money.
Well, it honestly, I think that's a big thing. One of my early mentors was very annoying because he kept telling me, he's very zen. He'd say, you have to let go of the outcome. And I'm like, but I need to close the sale. And he's like, if you let go of needing to close the sale, it'll close. And I'm like, you're weird. And then I got it. And I'm like, got it.
Yeah. You're like, now I understand.
Yeah, it was funny because when you're starting out, when you're young and trying to get somewhere, and I accidentally proved him right. One day I was sitting down with somebody and it was a husband and wife couple, and they were trying to decide if they were going to hire me or not. And the old me would have, did the little song and dance and tried to win their business. And that day I was having a rough day or something. And I just said, look, I'm not sure we're going to work together. You need to convince me, and I need to be sure. You need to be sure. And it was just one of those, I was like, it was a random chance thing. I had no reason to need it to close. And it was fascinating because at the end, the husband looks at me and says, how much? And the wife slaps him, literally backhands him and says, shut up, you're going to hurt his feelings and he's not going to work with us. And she said, what my idiot husband meant to say is, will you take us on? And I was like, oh my God. And then I said, yeah, absolutely. Let's figure out what this looks like. But it was truly by accident. I was there not trying to get their business. I was there to see if I wanted to take them on as clients, because maybe they're the right fit, maybe they weren't. And just letting it go. And of course, my mentor, when I went and told him, he's like,
he's like, now you're starting to understand this whole thing of surrendering the outcome.
Yeah. And it just, it's the difference between, expecting and knowing your value. If you know your value and you have the conversation with the right people, they're going to say, how do we work together? As opposed to that, negative begging energy of, please hire me, please.
Yeah. I know. It's really, and we've all been there. I mean, I remember that feeling of like, oh my God, this has to work. I have to make money, and I just eventually was like, I had a couple breakdowns, because we all know the breakdowns lead to the breakthrough. And I realized, like, I don't actually need money in my bank account to do what I love.
Yeah.
Like, those two are not related, right? Like, we think we need money in our bank account to actually live into our life's purpose and do this work. But I don't. I could just walk outside into my cul-de-sac and my neighbor say, hey, Liz, I want to start a business, and I can help them.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant of what's in my bank account. And when I realized that, everything just became so much easier and more fun and lighter. And, of course we all need to make money to live. I understand that. But when you can detach from like your actions and this thing has to create the money, it's like, no, that reciprocity proves that when you put out into the world, you shall receive. And in the beginning, it just started to look really weird. Like I was getting these, high contract consulting gigs, but over here I was like coaching the women that I work with now. So in the beginning, it was really weird. I'm just like, okay, I'm doing this, but then the money's coming from these other places. And then eventually the machine kind of built itself, and here we are. But
I love that. And I think that's one of the things, like, as an entrepreneur, I'll just share this with you because you will totally get it. A year ago, I thought I launched a ghostwriting business, but people kept coming to me and asking me to help them with artificial intelligence. And I'm like, but I'm a ghostwriter. And I had this identity, and I was like, but I want to be a ghostwriter. And I totally missed, it was only a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine was like, you should really, really do this for a living. And I was like, but this is my hobby. This is, my quiet time in the evening. I build custom AI models.
Yeah.
And my friend was like, but you need to do this as a business. And I'm like, oh, whoops.
Yeah,
Now,
sometimes it finds you, right?
now the funny thing, and this is tying it back to what you do, Elizabeth, is, and by the way, you're not a Liz to me, you're Elizabeth. I know.
Oh, either one is fine.
I know you're fine either way. What I found was that, the area where I was playing, it was selfish of me to keep it to myself. But because I had a community, when I came to my group and said, hey, everybody, I'm doing this, most of the response was, it was about time.
Like, we knew that.
Yeah. And it's like, because one of my friends, she's a psychologist by profession, and so she's a little more blunt than most people. She's like, I've been telling you this for a year, because when I talk about AI, I light up and I'm excited, and it's like describing, I have 400 little AI models, and which one's my favorite child. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, it depends on the day and how they're behaving. But she said, you light up like a proud father. Whereas when you talk about ghostwriting, you put on your writer's hat, and it's like, okay, we're going to work now. Because to be honest, I love ghostwriting. I just hate ghostwriting with other people because they never do their homework.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can always tell when somebody is not at a 10 out of 10 loving what they do. And they're not even aware of it yet, but I can always sense it in the energy and the way they speak about it. And one of my favorite activities to do with people at my live events is to have them stand up in front of the room and say their elevator pitch or what they do for some type of introduction. And I will make them say it over and over until the whole room believes them, because we can say the right words.
Yep.
But if we don't say it with that 10 out of 10 love, that energy, that purpose, the room's not going to buy into it. Yep. So we'll do it over and over until the whole room is like, that was better. But you can hear the difference when they nail it. And it's really fun.
Yeah. Well, and, for me, hi, I'm Jeff. I'm a ghostwriter. I got the card up and I'm reading it going, oh, blah, blah, blah. Very boring. But you start talking about AI and it's like, okay, nerd alert. This guy is,
Yeah, you get really excited. Yeah.
It's like, why aren't you as excited as I am? Anyway.
Yep, exactly. But that's what makes people know, oh, I want to work with him, because look at that excitement that he's bringing.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and it's going to sound like I'm asking for a one-size-fits-all answer, but I think you're going to give me a it depends answer. Okay. The most common question I get all the time is, if you're going to build a community, what's the best platform? You know where I'm going with that, right?
Yeah. Yep. But there is no best. The community is going to go wherever you go, and you bring, again, that 10 out of 10 energy. So it does not matter if you're on, Facebook groups or WhatsApp or Mighty Networks or Circle, but you have to be a 10 out of 10 and driving traffic there. And your decision. If you're even an 8 and you're like, well, what do you guys want? Do you guys want to be on Facebook, or do you want to? No, you have to say, we're going to be over here, and here's the reason why this is the best platform. And if you want to get the most out of this community, this is where you'll show up, right? They want you to be their guide. Sometimes my students, when I'm like really trying to pull out of them and I'm being a little bit gentle, they'll be like, just tell me what to do. Right?
What do you want?
Yeah. And I'm like, there's a time and a place for me to give advice, but sometimes I have to, pull information out of them, and they don't like that. They just want me to give them the roadmap.
Yeah, but I don't want to do the homework. Just give me the answers.
Exactly. But they're really, gosh, I've been doing this work for a long time. And when I was doing the consulting, it really started with Facebook groups and Circle and helping people in this a little bit more like systematic, techie community building way. Yeah. Because naturally people hear you're good at building community, and that's what they want. Help me with my tech.
Yeah. Can you set up this? Now, I'll share with you one of my early things, because I used to be one of those one-size-fits-all. And I read somewhere, did a lot of research, that the best place to be was Slack. So I opened a Slack community and crickets, and it was driving me nuts. And wait for it. So Slack is a very good community for people who are logical and very well ordered. I was building a woo-woo community, and they hated the rigid structure.
I love Slack.
You're one of my people. Of course you love it. But the key there, and I want to underline this, is you need to know who your audience is, and you need to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
Totally random, but I actually ran a community through Google Docs, and it works well when people know how to use Google.
Yes. Yes.
Minor detail, if they don't know how to use Google, they're going to be lost.
Yes. Just like a Facebook group wouldn't make sense for somebody that's not already on Facebook group or loves Facebook or whatever it might be, you know?
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of that as far as like where are your people hanging out, you know, what are they going to enjoy? How does their brain work? You know, the Slack versus the Discord versus the whatever. So there is always some of that to consider. But at the end of the day, it's like you as the community leader get to choose and you get to decide, you know, what energy you're going to bring and directing them on where to go and how they buy into it. We get to control all of that.
And funny story, both of my boys, I think my youngest, he was 10, and my oldest was probably about 14. They both set up Discord servers, and they brought, you know, their friends from school into it, and they're playing video games, and they were like, oh, Dad, you should run this for your grown-ups. And at the time, that particular community was predominantly 60 plus. And it was like, whoops, wrong tech.
Yeah. I tried Discord too, and I was like, oh, this is a lot of like gamers, Web3. You know, it's a little bit different type of, you know, community.
It's very improv, you know, just show up and do stuff kind of, and oh, it'll vanish because God help you, you'll never find it. And that's the thing. It works well for gamers in a gaming session.
Yes.
Whereas for a mastermind, terrible platform. And I love Discord for so many things. We actually created a family Discord. My boys set it up, and you know, when Mom wants to know what everybody wants for dinner, Discord.
Oh, I love it. How fun is that? I could see my family doing that with a Slack channel.
It's handy. So, Liz, I could talk to you all day. How can people connect with you? How can they learn more? And how can they bask in your glow of your amazing energy?
Oh, fun. Well, if anyone, you know, is just curious about the way I help people with marketing, I do have a quiz. It's at elizabethhenson.co/next. And it's like 5 questions, but that will help you determine what phase you're in and what to do next. So elizabethhenson.co/next. As far as socials, I was telling you before the call, we have stepped up our LinkedIn game. So you guys can find me on LinkedIn. I believe it's Elizabeth Henson Co. on there. Not hard to find if you just search Elizabeth Henson. So I would love to continue to get new friends over there. Message me. I'm still kind of learning how it all works. And then I'm very easy to find on Instagram too at elizabeth.henson. Pretty easy to find. Everything's under my name in some way, shape, or form.
I love it. And by the way, that's probably a bonus marketing tip. Be easy to find.
Yes.
And Elizabeth, I want to thank you. As always, it is great to catch up, and I do appreciate your time being on the show. So thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me. It was so fun.